So after risk and return, here's another concept used in financial management, and it's called time value of money. So let's start. Okay. First, we have to know the role of time value of money in finance. Now, take note, this is actually axiom number 2, no, from the 10 axioms of financial management. Now, every time we talk about financial decisions, normally there is always a comparison between costs and benefits, okay? Especially costs and benefits that happen at different points in time. Okay, this is when the time value of money comes in, because it doesn't make sense to compare the values of costs and benefits that happens at different points in time. So what we do before we compare them, okay, we reflect them as if they happened at the same point in time. Okay, now by using this concept of time value, no, this will allow us to compare cash flows from different periods. So for example, no, let's say your father has offered you some money and you have two options. It's either you will receive $1,000 now or $1,100 1 year from now. So how are you going to compare that? Take note that the value that you will be receiving now will have a different value if you receive it in the future. You cannot just compare 1,000 now and 1,100 1 year from now, okay? What we can do is to get the present value of that 1,100, okay, as of this point, and compare that with 1,000, okay, which we will be receiving today. Or what you can do is to get the future value of 1,000, okay, 1 year from now, no, and compare that with 1,100 that you will receive 1 year from now. Okay, so how do we do that? First, we must know the concept of future value and your present value. So here's another example, no, to give you an idea. Suppose a firm has an opportunity to spend $15,000 today on some investment that will produce $17,000 spread out over the next 5 years as follows. Okay, so for year 1, you will be receiving $3,000. For year 2, you have $5,000. Year 3, $4,000, $3,000, and $2,000 respectively. Okay, up to year 5. Now, question, is this a wise investment? Now, to make the right investment, you have to compare, okay, the present value of this future cash flows with 15,000, because take note, 15,000 will happen today, while this 17,000, okay, will happen on the next 5 years. Okay, so ayun, kumbaga parang may question, what if you're going to receive this, okay, today? What will be the value of this, no? 3, 5, 4, 3, and 2. What will be the value if you are going to receive this today? That value is called the present value. And that value is the benefit. You're going to compare that with the cost of this investment today, which is 15,000. Okay. So, okay, to help you visualize the concept of time value, we need this timeline, kumbaga. Now, in a time value timeline, in this example, no, we have the different cash flows. This one is negative because this is a cash outflow, while the others are positive because these are your cash inflows. So take note, they happen at different points in time. So how do we make them comparable? Okay, now you can use the concept of compounding or discounting. Now we use the term compounding if we are computing for the future value, okay, and we use the term discounting if we are getting the present value, okay, of an amount. Okay, so ano kayang mas maganda? Since 15,000 is already given as of point 0, okay, what you will do now is to get the present value of these 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and you can now compare that. Or, okay, since you already have this 2,000 as the future value after 5 years, all you have to do is to reflect 3, 4, 5, and 3,000 at their future value as positive cash inflows, and this 15,000, okay, you get the future value as a negative cash inflow. Okay, so and then you can now make your comparison. Now, there are basic patterns for cash flows. Okay, you have the uniform, okay, and you have the mixed patterns. Okay, so ayun, in this slide, sabi niya, the cash inflows and outflows of a firm can be described by its general pattern. The three basic patterns are single amount, okay, if you're going to receive them on a one-time basis. Okay, like for example, you're going to receive the inflow after 5 years. That's a single amount. Annuity, if you're going to receive the amount every year or every period. Or mixed stream. Okay, pag sinabi nating mixed stream, okay, it's not uniform. Okay, and sometimes, aside from your cash inflows every year, you also have your cash outflows no, once in a while. Ganun, mix, medyo hindi siya uniform. Ayun, we're going to discuss more about mixed stream later. More terminologies when we say future value. This is a value at a given future date, okay, of an amount placed on deposit today and earning interest at a specified rate, okay, found by applying compound interest over a specified period of time. So, for example, if you want to know the value of $1,000, which is deposited today, no, at 10% per year, okay, and you want to get the value of that 5 years from now, okay, that value is called the future value. Compound interest is interest that is earned on a given deposit and has become part of the principal at the end of the specified period. So, for example, if your money is earning 10% every year, okay, so today the value is, let's say, $1,000. After 1 year, it's going to earn $100. You know, 1,000 times 10%. At the end of the first year, your principal will now become 1,100. That will now be your principal for next year, which will earn 10%. So instead of multiplying, you know, 10% every year, okay, which is 100, hindi. It's going to be 100 for the first year, and then 10% of 100 plus 1,000, and then 10% of the total for the second year, and that will be for the third year. Medyo magulo, ano? Mamaya meron tayong example dyan. And then principal is the amount of money on which interest is paid. Kunyari na lang naiintindihan mo muna. Ayan, so let's have an example. If Fred Moreno places 100 in a savings account, paying 8% interest compounded annually, o compounded annually. Pag sinabi natin compounded, pati yung interest nag-earn. Ayan. How much will he have at the end of 1 year? So, this one is asking about the future value at the end of year 1. So, as you can see, oh, ayan. What's the principal? 100. Diba? What's the interest? 8%. So, 8% of 100, that's $8. So, you just add, you now have 108. This is what I'm talking about. Now, at the end of year 1, this will now, the total of the principal and the interest, this will now be the principal for year 2. Okay? So, you now multiply that with 8%, okay? And the amount will be added, no? So you will get 8.64 that will now be added to your total amount, which is 108. So now you have a total of 116.64, no? As opposed to, let's say, 100 times 8%, so you get $8 times 2 years, so you now have $16. Pag ganun yung approach, you will only have 116. But for compounding, even your interest will earn an interest. Ganun lang. We use the following notation for the various inputs. FV for the future value. Okay. PV for the present value. Okay. And R, sometimes we use K, sometimes we use I to indicate your interest, and N for the number of periods. Take note, okay, the number of periods typically in years, no? Especially if the rate is stated in on a per year basis, annual rate. Now, you have to make some conversion. For example, if we are compounding, let's say, every every 6 months, no, semi-annual compounding, or every quarter, you also have to convert this, no. What am I saying? For example, you're given 12% every year, okay, and you're given number of periods in terms of, let's say, hindi siya per year. Let's say semi-annual period, so every 6 months. So the rate that you're going to use will be 6%. Okay, diba? For example, your N is equal to 6 semi-annual periods. Okay, and 12 is your annual rate. Therefore, your semi-annual rate will be 6%. That will be 12% divided by 2. Okay po, and the general equation for the future value at the end of period N is FVN. And, ayun, basahin mo na lang. Now, let's talk about future value of a single amount. Okay, the equation is, using the equation given earlier. So, another example, you have $800 in savings, okay, at 6% interest, and it's compounded annually. Now, if the problem is silent, the rate given for us is your annual rate. Yan. So, she wants to know how much money will be in the account at the end of 5 years. So, we are looking for the future value after 5 years. Of what? Of this $800. Invested or deposited at 6% compounded every year. So by following the equation, you will have $1,070.58. Okay, so this is a future value of 1. Ito po yung sinasabi natin kanina na lump sum lang, one-time payment. Okay, now if you're using the financial calculator, ayan, you can have the following keys, or if you're using Excel, you can have the following function. Okay, now what is this? This is the relationship of the rate and the period with the future value of your money. So as the period increases, or as the rate increases, and as the duration, no, para maiba naman. Elongate, sabi ng isang estudyante ko dati. Okay, pero let's just use the term increase. Okay? Or as it becomes longer. Ayan. What will happen to the future value? The future value will be higher. So, in short, higher interest rates, higher future value. Longer duration, higher future value. Now, let's talk about present value. Okay, present value is the current value of the future amount. So parang kabaliktaran, no? This is the amount of money that would have to be invested today at a given interest rate over a specified period to be equal in the future amount. So kanina, okay, given the amount now or the deposit now, okay, at this rate, what will be the value after 5 years? For present value, it's the opposite. If this will be the value after 5 years, okay, which is deposited now at this rate, what will be the value of that now, or of that principal now? So, ganun lang, kabaliktaran lang. It is based on the idea, ano ba yan? May pusa. It is based on the idea that a dollar today is worth more than the dollar tomorrow. Ayan. Okay, pati naman yung future value eh. Ako, ayan. Now, what about discounting cash flows? Anong ibig sabihin nito? When we use the term discounting, it means that we are trying to get the present value of a future amount. It is actually the opposite of compounding. And the discount rate, okay, refers to the opportunity cost, or the discount rate, the interest rate that we are currently using. You can also use the minimum required rate of return or your cost of capital. Ayan. Pasensya na sa ingay kanina. Hindi ko na po ito i-edit. Ayan. Ganon talaga ang buhay pag online. Anyway, let's continue. Here's another example. No? Paul Shorter has an opportunity to receive $300 okay, 1 year from now. So that's the value 1 year from now. This means that 300 is actually the future value. Okay, if he can earn 6% on his investments, what is the most he should pay now for this opportunity. Okay, so we're supposed to come up with a decision. So, kumbaga, if you're going to receive $300 at 6% 1 year from now, what is the highest amount that you can sacrifice? Okay, so that's the cost, no? So that you can benefit $300 1 year from now. So, it's actually asking for the present value. So, if you're going to get the present value of this one, no, at 6%, okay, it will be 283. This means, okay, that you cannot spend more than 283 now, okay, because lugi ka, okay. What you're going to spend now is the cost. And what is your benefit? Okay, the present value of 300, which is 283. Okay, so ayun. In short, okay, for decision-making purposes, do not spend more than the present value of the future benefits, okay, of an investment. Ayan. Ano to? The present value of some future amount, okay, which is FV, to be received in N periods, or N periods, no? The number of years. Okay, assuming an interest rate or opportunity cost of R is calculated as follows. So that is the formula. Parang binaligtad lang yung formula because future value is equal to present value times this factor. So if you're working backwards, okay, this will now be the formula if you're looking for the present value. Okay, so we'll have another example. Tom Valenti wishes to find the present value of 1,700 that will be received 8 years from now. So after 8 years, okay, he's going to receive 1,700. And the opportunity cost or the cost of money is 8%. So using the earlier formula, okay, no, by process of prostitution or substitution, by process of substitution, you can arrive at 908. So if you're going to receive this 1,700 now, okay, the value will be 918.46. If you are going to deposit this at 8% now, the value after 8 years will be, okay, $1,700. Okay, so if this is, sabi niya, if you want to have 1,700, this is how much you should deposit now. And for present value, okay, this is the relationship of the value, the rates, and the periods. Okay, the longer the period, okay, the lower will be the present value. Okay, or the higher the rate, the lower will be the present value of an amount. Okay po? So, ayun. Now, let's continue. Okay. What about annuity? Annuity is a stream of equal periodic cash flows. Okay, so equal pala pag annuity over a specified time period. Okay, these cash flows can be inflows or they can also be outflows. Now, there are two kinds of annuities. You have your ordinary, also known as deferred annuity, and then you have your annuity due. What's the difference of these two? When we say annuity or ordinary annuity, the cash flows is assumed to happen at the end of the period. While annuity due, okay, we assume here that cash flows will happen at the beginning of each period. Okay. Now, sabi niya, an annuity due will always be greater than an otherwise equivalent ordinary annuity because interest, take note of this, interest will compound for an additional period. Okay, so that's one way to understand that, no? Or we can also say that the cash flows can earn interest earlier if they are reinvested or redeposited. Anyway, we will have another example. Fran Abrams is choosing which of two annuities to receive. Okay, both are 5-year 1,000 annuities. Okay, you have A as ordinary annuity and B as annuity due. Okay, and you have the following table. So take note that the total is both $5,000. Okay, the only difference is that, okay, cash flows will happen at the end of the first period. So, you will receive 1,000 after 1 year. Yan, for the next 5 years. Here, you will receive 1,000 immediately. So, 1,000 will be received, okay, at the beginning of the first year. O, diba? So, yun yung sinasabi ko kanina. Okay, for annuity due, okay, sometimes it's higher, no? When we talk about future values, no? Why? Because if this is reinvested, okay, in terms of compounding, this will earn interest earlier. Or as stated in the previous slide, okay, you can also say that interest will compound for an additional period. What's that additional period? Dito po siya. Ayun. So, what's the formula? You can calculate the future value of an ordinary annuity using the following equation. Now, again, please feel free to pause the video, okay, take a screen capture, ganon, and then, naka-live ba ito na broadcast? And I take some notes, okay, and then feel free to go back to these slides. Now, as before in this equation, R represents the interest rate and N is for the number of payments. Or equivalently, okay, the number of years over which the annuity is spread. Now, before I forget, no, most of these materials came from Lawrence Gitman, your textbook, and from Brigham, okay, with a little editing. Okay po? So, ayun. Now, let's continue. Fran Abrams wishes to determine how much money she will have at the end of 5 years if he chooses annuity A. Okay, so using the formula, you will have 5,750.74. What is annuity A? This is ordinary annuity. Take note, 1,000, okay, will be received, okay, at the end of the first year or at the end of each year. Pag annuity due, you're going to receive them at the beginning of each year. Okay po. You can calculate the present value of ordinary annuity that pays an annual cash flow equal to cash flow using the following equation. Ayan. Here's another example. Present value naman siya. Take note, the earlier example is future value. Okay, what if we are computing the present value? That's now the formula. So for an amount, okay, which will be received at the end of each year for 5 years by process of substitution, okay. And 5 years at 8%, the present value of 7 times 5 is actually 2,794. Okay po. So, ayun. Now, you can have the long cut. Okay, this one is important because not all of the time you can apply this equation. Take note, this is only applicable if your cash flows is uniform. Now, what if it's mixed, okay, or it's not uniform? Like, for example, you have 700, and then you have 200, and then you have 0, and then you have 5, and so on and so forth. Okay, you cannot use that formula. So what you do is you do the long cut. Okay, by using the earlier formula, present value of 1 for 1 year, PV of 1 for 2 years, 3, 4, and 5. And then you get the summation, and now you have the present value, okay, of that one. Ayun. Now, let's talk about annuity due. Okay, what is annuity due? If your cash flows will happen at the beginning of the period. We have a different formula. So, by applying that formula, going back to our earlier example, oops, what's this? This is for Excel if you're using Excel. Okay, going back to our previous example, that one is the present value pala. This one is for the future value. I just want to emphasize. Future value for annuity due and formula for the present value for annuity due. Going back to that 1,000 again, no? Nasaan na? Okay, tinanggal ko na pala. That's the assignment, no? That's the assignment pala. Now, what is your assignment? Okay, try to compare. Okay, you remember this? Ayan. Try to compare, okay, the future value if, okay, Fran chose annuity B, and that is, ano yung annuity B? Okay, annuity U. Instead of having 1,000 here, you will now have 1,000 here. Diba? You compute the future value of that, and then you get the summation. Which one will have a higher value? I-try nyo nga, and then try to compare if he made the right decision choosing annuity A. Now, let's continue. That's for the future value, and this one is for the present value. Here's another example. Donald got the surprise of his life when he learned he held the winning ticket for the Powerball lottery. Oh, yes. This is another assignment pala. Ayan. Okay, but let's discuss. Anyway, the advertised lottery jackpot was 96.6 million. Okay, he could have chosen to collect his prize in 30 annual payments of, ayan, 3.22 million. Okay. But instead, he elected to accept a lump sum one-time payment of 48. So the question, is this a good decision? So to answer that question, you create a timeline. Okay? Yan. So you have 30 years. Every year, you will be receiving 3.22 million. Yan, for 20 years. So what do? You get the present value. O, diba? You get the present value of this. Okay, and then you compare it with 48. But in this case, okay, eto medyo iba. The cost of money is not given. Okay. So the question is, what is now the cost of money, okay, or the opportunity cost, so that, okay, this decision is better than receiving 3.22 million for the next 30 years. Diba? Ang saya nun, no? Okay, what's this? Perpetuity. Okay, perpetuity naman is an annuity with an infinite life, providing continual annual cash flow. So, kumbaga parang mga retirement plans, ganon, na habang nabubuhay ka, eto yung tatanggapin mo. Perpetuity, hindi mo alam kung kailan siya matatapos. If a perpetuity pays an annual cash flow, okay, starting 1 year from now, the present value for the cash flow stream is simply, yan, present value is equal to the cash flow divided by the rate. Okay, so very easy to apply. Ayun, another example, yan. A cabinet manufacturer expects to receive the following mixed stream, yan, halo-halo na, of cash flows over the next 5 years from one of its small customers. So this is an example of mixed stream of cash flows. If the firm expects to earn 8% on its investments, how much will it accumulate at the end of year 5? Can you use the formula, no, for the future value of ordinary annuity? Hindi. Why? Because you have mixed streams. So what you can do, okay, to compute for the future value is to use the long method. You get the future value of 1, okay, for year 1, year 2, year 3, 4, and 5, and then get the summation. This is now the future value for that mixed stream. Okay, this one is also an example of mixed stream, but this time it is a cash inflow naman. It's also a cash inflow, pero sabi niya, offered an opportunity to receive. So these are your future value. So I guess you're going to make a decision now. So you compute for the present value. Diba? So ayun pala. Na-excite ako eh. So sabi niya, if the firm must earn at least 9% on its investments, what is the most it should pay for this opportunity? So kumbaga, okay, para masagot mo yan, first you have to get the present value. If the present value of this, no, mixed stream, no, cash inflow is 1904. Okay, ibig sabihin, you cannot pay more than $1,904.75. Okay, kasi lugi ka. It should be at most 19. Kaya nga sinabi, what is the most? Ayan. Okay. So, mas mababa yung babayaran mo o di mas okay. The difference will now be your profit. Okay, or the net present value. Yan, kapag investment. Soon, we will have a discussion on capital budgeting. Compounding more frequently than once a year results in a higher effective interest rate because you are earning on interest on interest more frequently. Okay, what does this mean? Okay, for example, if you have cash flows happening every year for 3 years, okay, if you compound that and then if you compare that with the same cash flows spread over 3 years but the compounding happens every 6 months, ang ibig sabihin nito, okay, you will have higher interest if it's compounded every 6 months. Okay, so like for example, you have 1,000 every year. 1,000 every year at, let's say, 12%. Okay, and then if you compare that with 500, ano na lang, 500, okay, for 6%, for 6 months at 6%. Yan, sige, paki-compute. Here's another equation for compounding more frequently than annually. Diba? What's this M? For example, you have 3 years pero semi-annual siya. So there are 2 semi-annuals in a year, so times 2. So you will now have 6 periods. So for your rate, divide this by 2. Assuming this is 12% annual rate, so you will now have 6% every 6 months. And then you can now recalculate. Ayan. Chiching! And compare, Compare, yung i-compare natin dito? 8%. And, parehong 8%, kaya nga lang ito, you have 2 periods, siguro this is semi-annual, and 4 periods in a year, siguro this is quarterly. At nandito pala. Hindi ako nagbasa. You have semi-annual and quarterly compounding. So, which one is higher? Okay, you will have a higher amount if it's compounded quarterly. Continuous compounding involves the compounding of interest in an infinite number of times per year at intervals of microseconds. Ginagawa pa ba natin ito? Pero since nandito na rin lang tayo, ayan, binigay ko na rin yung formula. Ayan. We are almost done. Okay, chillax lang. What is the nominal rate? This is actually known as your contractual annual rate, or the rate which is found in the contract itself. Okay, kapag credit man yan or kapag bond man yan, okay, that is your face interest. Yan. You also have your effective annual rate, okay, or effective interest. Okay, the annual rate of interest which is actually paid. So pag nominal by name, kaya yung nasa kontrata. Effective, okay, yun yung actual. Okay, and there may be some differences. Why? Because let's say in bonds na lang, your bonds can be sold above or below the face value, okay, because of the changes in market rates. So with the amortization of the difference, sometimes it will affect the actual interest. Okay, so ayun. Now, in general, the effective rate is higher than the nominal rate. Sabi niya, whenever compounding occurs more than once per year. Okay, let's talk about loan amortization. Okay, you know what is loan amortization, Yung regular na binabayaran mo kapag may utang ka. So here you determine the equal periodic loan payments, okay, which will include a payment for the principal, and a part of that payment will go to the interest. Okay, normally it behaves this way, assuming ganyan, Ganyan yung binabayaran mo. So you have year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, and year 5. Assuming we have a loan which should be paid for 5 years. And assuming this is the amount that you are paying, okay, normally your first payment will be, di naman lahat, but mostly it will be applied to interest. Okay, so ganyan yan eh. Oops, I'm sorry. Okay, Ganyan yan yun. Eh, ba't siya bumalik? Okay. Pababa. Wait lang. Nandito pala siya. Na-excite naman ako. Okay, pababa yan. Pag ganyan yan. Ayun, ano yan? This is now your interest and this is now your principal. You will be paying uniformly, no? Every year or every month siguro or every 3 months, okay? You have equal payments but the application of that payment, okay, is not uniform. At the earlier years or earlier months, okay, majority will be paid to your interest. Konti lang sa principal. And then habang papalapit sa maturity, okay, most of that will now be applied to your principal. Okay, konti na lang sa interest. So imagine, no, if you, let's say, you decided to terminate your loan after 2 years, okay, your first 2 payments is only, your first 2 payments, majority of that is applied to interest. This is the only amount applied to your principal. So, kumbaga, pag tinanong mo, naka 2 years na ako, how come ang laki pa ng balance ko? Kasi ganun. Most of your payment is applied to interest. Okay po. Ayan. And that will be discussed in another topic. But here's an example. So, how do you do that? Okay. You have the following formula. So, if you want to know how much are you going to pay, no, the $6,000, if you're going to pay this in 4 years, no, in 4 years at 10%. So what will now be my equal payment? It will be 1,892.82 every year. Ayun lang. Okay. So, I guess that's it. No? To summarize the presentation, okay, what is relevant to us is, well, number one, we should know how to compare our costs and benefits at the same point in time. Okay, so you should know how to compute for the present value and or the future value, okay, of cash flows, no? It could be your cash inflows or cash outflows. For present value, okay, there are 2 kinds. I want you to focus on the present value of 1 and present value of annuity of 1. So this one is for lump sum payments or lump sum collection, and this one is for, you know, if there is a cash stream every year. Okay, it could be a mixed stream, okay, uniform, ganun na annuity. And for future value, ganun din. You have future value of 1, may formula yan, and then you have the future value of an annuity. Siyempre, mahahati yan sa dalawa. You have your ordinary annuity and you have your annuity due. Dito rin, no? You have your ordinary annuity and you have your annuity due. Ano yung mga applications nito? Well, my favorite application for this one is for security evaluation. No, because we all know that the value of a security now or the market value of the security now should be equal or near to the present value of its future benefits. No, so if we're talking about stocks, okay, so the present value of future dividends plus the future market value, no, at the time that you expect it to sell. Ayan, pag pinag-add mo lahat yon, you should get the present value or, you know, close to its market value. O, di ba? Ganun dapat. Kung may disparity, let's say that the present value of future benefits is higher than the market value, then that stock is, nakawagwag. It's being sold at a discount. Nakasale na siya, di ba? Or what if it's the opposite, no? The future value of future benefits is less than the market value. Then you can now say that the stock is overpriced naman. It's time for you to sell. Kanina, it's time for you to buy kasi it's cheap. If it's the opposite, it's time for you to sell. Ganon din po for bonds. For bonds, it's easier because you have a specific duration for your bonds, no? So you can easily get the cash inflows. Syempre yun na yung face value niya, okay? And the interest that you will be receiving, o, di ba? You get the present value of those that should be equal to the market value of the bond. And kung may difference, and that will help you to decide, no, whether you're going to buy more or to sell o pre-terminate daw. Ayan. Okay, so ayun, that's one. Okay, and also you have to take note that we are computing for the present value of an amount or the future value of an amount, whether that's the cost or a benefit of a decision. No, we're getting that so that we can compare these amounts at the same point in time. Diba? You cannot compare the 100 or the $1,000 now versus the $1,100 that you will be receiving 1 year from now. Ayun lang po for time value of money. Okay, and thank you.